Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace episode 20, Matt. The 20th episode.
20.
I can't believe, I mean, honestly, I think we've been doing the show for 6 months now, but it's been 5 months of episodes. The time, it just flies by, man. Like,
it does. It seems like just yesterday I didn't know which graphic button to hit to bring up the big six. And now
you're out here. Now you're on the show.
I'm dressed better than you are.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Cats and dogs getting along.
Yeah. Mass hysteria.
Yeah.
Mass hysteria.
20 episodes, though. That's a mini milestone. That's a whole lot of work that's gone into 20 episodes of GameFace. Thanks for...
A lot of shows don't make it that far.
You're right. Well, a lot of TV shows don't make it past the 5th episode, but since I'm the one who would conceivably cancel GameFace, I don't know if that's a fair comparison, but here we are for episode 20. Obviously, we've gotten through Gamescom at this point, but honestly, like, the shows are just going to kind of keep on coming. D23, the big Disney show, happened this past weekend. Matt, you were there. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. And then there's all these little ones coming up. There's like Paris Game Show that Sony's going to be a part of. There's Tokyo Game Show. There's
PAX Prime.
PAX Prime is next weekend.
Next weekend. What?
Speaking of which, I will be at PAX, people, and if you see me walking around the floor, come up and say hello. It would be great to meet some of you sifters in person. Matt will be there as well.
I'll be there. You can ask me where Shane is.
Yeah.
I might know.
I'm just going to be there promoting Sifted, so you'll see me handing out flyers and trying to convince people to become subscribers to Sifted, and also enjoying the show as well, getting some time to play some games. Lots of indie stuff is going to be there. I know I'm getting just overloaded with emails to come check out X, Y, and Z indie game. I mean, a big part of it might be that they're the only people left who have appointments, but... True,
but it's always been kind of a mecca for indie games, and I wonder if we'll see The Witness again. I mean, it's good that's there, that there's a show where those games are the top dogs.
Yeah. I mean, look, the big boys still roll in there. I'm sure we're going to see a smattering of that stuff, but yeah, you're right. Like, PAX really is for the smaller guys.
I think public sentiment at PAX is really tilted towards the little guys, and you know, I've certainly found a lot of games there and through coverage of PAX that I would never have played otherwise. So.
Yeah, for sure. And also, then you have Tokyo Game Show.
Oh, boy.
And then they just announced today that the Video Game Awards are coming back. Jeff Keighley announced today, I believe on Twitter, that show's coming back for a second year, which is great to see. And I'm sure that will be even better this year than it was last year, and I really enjoyed it last year. So... And then the games. I mean, the games are starting to flood in here. Metal Gear's coming in the next couple days. I just got Super Mario Maker today to start playing for review.
Disney Infinity 3.0.
That's coming out. That's coming out real soon.
Lego Universe or Lego Dimensions is in September. I mean, we got big stuff coming.
Well, from here on out, every single week there's at least one big release, and we have been suffering. It was a tough time to launch.
Yeah, It was a dark time for the Rebellion for a while there in terms of game releases.
It was a tough time to launch the site, too, because, you know, a lot of people go to websites for the big releases, and we really haven't had that many since the site launched.
No, this is definitely the bleakest summer I can remember for a while now.
I mean, we had Bloodborne, which actually wasn't even the summertime.
Yeah, that was March.
And then The Witcher.
Witcher 3 held me over most of the summer.
Yeah.
And there were some good smaller releases here and there.
Mortal Kombat was in there.
But like the summer was really sparse.
It was a dry one. But things are about to change, folks. It's about to get hype up in this place. And we'll be starting to roll out all these reviews for the big games one after another in the weeks to come. But for now, let's get to the Big Six. NPD numbers out, Matt, for July 2015, the year of our Lord.
Let's take a look.
Yep, so I guess let's talk about the top 10 games first.
Yeah.
And I've got to tell you, a game that is just surprising me, not just in the US, but everywhere, is Lego Jurassic World. Mm-hmm. That game is setting the sales charts ablaze. It's been number one in the UK now, like 3 weeks in a row. There was like 1 week where Rare Replay last week came in and like took it for 1 week. Now Rare Replay dropped all the way down in those charts. And Lego Jurassic,
front-loaded game. I think.
Yeah, for sure. And then Lego Jurassic World just jumped right back up into that top spot. And here we have it, U.S. sales, number one game from last month, Lego Jurassic World.
Didn't see that one coming, huh?
No, like, look, man, these Lego games, like, they have some serious legs.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh.
Ugh.
It's
now
unreal.
we should get canceled.
Yeah. Now I'm going to cancel us.
You're going to need to see you in your office.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude,
can you believe this? I mean, look,
it's one of the biggest movies of all time.
It is.
It's the only real. There's a mobile game, but that's the only real co-op family game you can pick up for Jurassic World.
I'm just
and it's all the Jurassic movies. So.
It is. I'm just so sick of Lego games, man. Like.
You'd think so, but people love it. And Lego Dimensions. I mean, I'm interested in Lego Dimensions because it's got all those crazy licenses. But my question is okay, so I kind of changed my answer now to this question. But it's are people going to pay that much money for these Lego things for Lego? I mean, the game itself is the starter set is $100, and the level sets are $30 or something. And I mean even the fun packs or whatever are $15. I mean, they're pricey even for those even for the toys to life genre.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And I'm well, are people going to really pay that? And then I look at this and I'm well, the fever is there.
Oh yeah.
The hunger is there. And you combine Jurassic World can do that. Combine that with Back to the Future and Doctor Who. You might have a sales explosion on your hands here.
I'm wondering if the reason these games are still selling so well is because most people don't buy them all. Whereas we're in the press, so we end up playing all of them because we kind of have to, and maybe that's why we've kind of reached that burnout level already.
Somewhat, but I think part of it is also they are really dependable games.
They are. I mean,
if you want a game to play with your kids, co-op with your kids or whatever, and you're not going to run into any weird sex stuff, you're not going to run into any swearing, you're not going to, you know exactly what you're getting, your kids like the gameplay. So I think some of that is definitely at play, where it's a guaranteed game your kids are going to like. You're going to be able to play together and not have to worry about anything, and it's just, there it goes.
Well, I think the other thing, too, is that parents know that they can play the games with their kids.
True.
They're co-op games, they know, and they're simple. They're not going to sit there and explain every last thing to their kids while they're playing. But holy cow, dude, WB is just on a tear.
Yeah.
I mean, it is becoming one of the most powerful publishers in the industry, almost
3 of the
overnight.
Top 10 here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's crazy. So let's go to the set. They have number 1 and 2.
Number 1 and 2.
So Batman Arkham Knight, I can't believe it got knocked out by Lego Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though.
Would not have called that. True.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though, is people are saying that if the bundles were counted in with Batman's sales, that then it would actually have sold better than Lego Jurassic World. So, Batman's still doing pretty well. I just think a lot of people who wanted to buy it just moved on and got their console, got their first PlayStation 4 or whatever.
I know at least 6 people that bought a PlayStation 4 bundle with it. It was a system seller.
Yeah. So it's done really well. I mean, it probably really is number 1. And then there's Minecraft.
I love that. Who is it had the title, the headline for the NPD results was Minecraft won't go away.
Yeah.
It was I can't remember who that was, but it's true. It's for those questioning Microsoft's wisdom in buying
it was genius.
Minecraft as a brand, oh man, and it's just that is just going to pay off and pay off and pay off, and then 20 years from now you're going to have Minecraft nostalgia.
Yeah, see, people don't even realize. They don't think about the long-term
Minecraft is playing the long game beyond even our lifetimes, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, that Minecraft is going to be Mario.
It will be, for sure.
Of the generation that hasn't even been named yet after the millennials.
After millennials, yeah. Which, what will they be called? Will they be called millennials 20 years from now? Like the baby boomers or what?
Right, yeah. Well, baby boomers remembers what that means necessarily. So
yeah.
What? Just people that blew up babies? I don't know what is that? No one knows that anymore.
So the rest of the top 10 here, I mean, it's not even really worth mentioning. They're all games that have been in the top 10 for forever. The only exception would be I don't know why I can't say this. Rory McIlroy PGA Tour comes in at 5th. And that'll fade away. That'll be gone next month. And I think I read that it had sold 70% better than the last game with Tiger Woods' name on it. So
poor Tiger.
Yeah, he really can't catch a break. So let's move on to the console sales. PlayStation 4, obviously, still dominating.
Still on top.
Second month in a row, it was top in sales. Xbox One. Here's the thing, though. Xbox One isn't doing terrible by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
It is up 44% year over year. It sold 190K machines in July. I mean, look,
usually a dead month.
Look, if we weren't staring at these astronomical PlayStation 4 numbers, the Xbox One numbers would be freaking us out just as much as the PlayStation 4 numbers.
Yeah, it's almost like the Wii in last gen, where it's like, PS3 and Xbox 360 are doing well, but there are these tiny little things next to the Wii up here. Like PlayStation 4 is running away with it.
Yeah, I mean, it is at this point running away with it. I don't know that there's any, but look, it doesn't matter because Microsoft is up 44% year over year. It's out-tracking the Xbox 360 by a significant margin. Obviously, Microsoft made plenty of money off of that platform. It's not going to have to eat all those red ring of death costs like it did last time, which literally cost it like $1 billion or something crazy. So
it's a testament to how wide and broad I think the industry has become, that it can support those two systems and they can both be successful. One can be way more successful, but like Microsoft isn't dying.
Oh no! Oh, they're not going away. And then on the other end of the scale, the poor Wii U, still up,
soldiering on.
The Nintendo Wii U still up 10% year over year. They're attributing that mostly to Splatoon. Splatoon has done 540K sales in the U.S. When you're looking at the install base of the Wii U in America, which is around 8-9 million, I'm guessing. Yeah, I know it's a little over 10 worldwide. So, I mean, that's a pretty high attach rate for Splatoon there. I mean, I'm no mathematician, but that's...
No, that Splatoon is... I would say Splatoon has earned its place as a new Nintendo franchise. I think we'll see Splatoon again.
I mean, it's done over 1 million worldwide, and there's 10 million out there. So there's a 10% attach rate worldwide with the Wii U and Splatoon.
That's very, very good, especially in recent... this industry... we're not in... we're not in NES world anymore, where Super Mario Bros. 3 can be like owned by 90% of the owners of a system. Like that just doesn't happen.
Well, that only happens when you pack a game in with the system. Like Wii Sports, for instance. That was an example of where there's a really high attach rate there.
But I got to admit, I don't know if you saw the Splatoon news today. That I think it's August 28th is the one-day Transformers event.
Yeah,
I think they got me.
But you know what it is, right? It's actually not all it is.
Well, it's a new TV show. It's a new cartoon show, and like. But shirts or something,
right? That's all it is. Is like one team wears shirts with an Autobot logo, and the other team wears shirts with a Decepticon logo. It's not like there are like Transformers like running through the levels,
right? But that still might be enough.
Yeah. Have you not played Splatoon?
I have not played Splatoon.
Wow. No. You should play it, man. It's surprisingly.
Well, apparently, I will because they're hitting me where I live on this one.
It's completely different. People, you look at it, you think it's a shooter. It really doesn't play like a shooter at all. And if I would call it a shooter, I would call it a cover shooter with the ground as the cover spots. Because you dip below the ink and you use it like cover. Like you go down and then you pop back up as if you were just like popping out behind like a wall or whatever. So
I mean, I'm ready for. I own like 6 Wii U games just in preparation in case they went out of print.
That's hilarious.
Like Wonderful 101, because I was like Wonderful 101, Bayonetta 2. Like I bought all those things because I'm like, well, by the time I get a Wii U, these might be gone.
I wouldn't open up Wonderful 101. I'd just hold on to that sucker for 10 or 15 years. It's probably gonna be worth some money.
When I was on up north at the wedding last weekend, I picked up Pikmin 3. At GameStop we stopped in. I'm like, I'm going to grab that. That sucker's out of print.
I opened my Pikmin 3. There was no way I wasn't going to play that sucker. Yeah. So let's see. The only other thing worth
3DS doing well.
3DS doing real well. Still up 35% year over year for, I think that stat was actually for the first 7 months of this year compared to the first 7 months of last year. So 3DS continuing to build momentum, continuing to do even better. The Vita, not even mentioned in Sony's reports anymore. No. So I think we all know where that's headed.
The Vita is being propped up by some real niche. The Vita might be the most niche system I've ever seen at this point.
Well, at this point, it's just a dumping ground for indie games.
Games, and also I think it's kind of where you get your digital only, but it's like kind of where Xseed and Atlas are throwing all these like really niche anime.
Well, every Japanese
games that you never would have seen in the West before this.
Pretty much every Japanese RPG that's announced is announced for PlayStation 4 and Vita.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it works. It's not Xbox One. It's not Wii U. Yeah. Those are the two platforms that really get all the love.
Atlas swearing Persona 5 is coming this year to North America.
I still don't believe it.
I don't either, but I hope they come through. I really would like to play that this year.
Yep. So overall, the industry was up 6% year over year.
Well done.
I'll take it.
Not bad.
I mean, hardware
is good.
Here's the thing: hardware sales are going to slowly taper off.
Yeah.
I mean, they're never going to stay as strong as they were the first year and a half. So 6%, I'll take that. And the other thing is, Xbox One plus PlayStation 4 are trending 50% higher than PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 at the same point in their lifespans.
You remember when
that is insane.
Remember when this generation was like just about to launch and everyone was like, "Oh, consoles are dead. Like, there's no way."
Like, mobile's taking over.
I was like, I think there's room. I think there's room.
I love seeing it. I love seeing it. So I love seeing this. These were July numbers, by the way. When the industry is dead, there weren't a lot of great games coming out.
So it's like, what's going to happen when like Fallout 4 and Battlefront are on the show?
We're going to start seeing it now. I mean, like I said, every week from here on out for the rest of the year, there's at least one big game that comes out. Yeah. So these numbers are just going to climb and get better and just make us all the more happy.
Going to be a good season, I think, for the game industry.
It's the second year. This holiday season.
This is where everything hits its stride. Where we start seeing the games that were made after everybody had the hardware in their hands.
Yeah.
Where you start seeing like the second next gen game from developers that try like a launch title.
Yeah.
It's an exciting time.
It is. It's going to get better and better. So let's move on to our next topic. So, and we're going to talk about a game that was released. We already mentioned in the show that was released a while ago. The Witcher 3. Witcher 3 has been amazing for DLC. I mean, they're putting out free stuff every week. The big story for Witcher 3 now, though, is that it has released the mod tools for Witcher 3. And the Witcher 2's mod tools were absolutely insane.
Yeah, red kit.
Yeah, the red kit. Yeah. And here, what happened is they put out the tools. The tools are nowhere near as robust as the tools were for The Witcher 2. And the caveat is that in one interview many, many moons ago, one of the developers from CD Projekt Red said that word, red kit. And so a certain faction of fans just assumed, well, if that's what you're going to call it, well, then the tools are going to be as good as the tools I got for Witcher 2. So the tools come out, they're not as good as the original red kit, and now the fans are going insane over this. Matt, what is your perspective on this? Do they have a right to be angry over this?
Well, obviously CD Projekt Red has learned the lesson on this game of be careful what you say 3 years before you release.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing with the video that looked better than what ended up being released. It's just,
which we've talked about on the show before.
People are going to hold you to that. I wonder, I haven't messed with the mod kit yet on Witcher 3. I barely played it really in the last week, but from what I've seen, like on Sifted's like articles and stuff, it looks like it's mainly a horse repainting kit.
Yeah,
that's mainly seems to be what people are using it for. It's like, look at what we did to the horse. Like, but like I understand. I mean, I'm not a modder, but I understand why people would be angry because like you look at that game and it just begs to like be messed with.
Oh, I mean, look at that stuff that, for instance, just this week they put out new alpha footage of that crazy mod for Skyrim.
Yeah.
I mean, look how long ago Skyrim came out. So that's the type of thing you could expect from The Witcher 3 if the tools were there for
and
people.
It could give this game a life of half a decade or
eternity.
More. I mean, people could just constantly, because it's such a powerful engine and there's so much you can do with it and it's different. I'm sure, I don't know for sure, but I'm sure there's things you can do in their red engine that's better or easier or different than like say Skyrim.
Yeah.
And so it might, maybe some people that want to do some stuff in Skyrim and could actually realize that on The Witcher.
Well, also you're talking about an engine that's pretty new.
Very new.
Compared to Skyrim, where a lot of the modders ended up doing all the heavy lifting for that because they had this engine that was built years and years ago, and they're actually the ones who have gone in and really written to the metal to get more out of it.
Yeah.
Here your base starting level with The Witcher 3 is tremendous. So imagine what I gotta say, like, I think they're being ridiculous. You paid $60 for a game. Like, you have already got 100 hours out of that game. You've got way more than that.
I'm closing in on 200 between PS4 and PC at
this
point.
I mean, a lot of people are like that, though.
And I'm going to play New Game Plus, which is another DLC that they put. I mean, they
that just launched today, actually. Yeah. Game Plus launched today.
They did it up right, and like, I mean, I totally understand why people are upset that it's not what they were expecting. And actually, I have a feeling that with all the yelling about it, like if I were CD Projekt Red, I'd be like, all right, we'll work some. I bet we'll see an update to the modding.
You think they will?
Well, they said they wouldn't on Twitter, but like, if there's anything we've learned, is the game industry is susceptible to
fanboys
reacting to fanboys screaming online. Yeah. So
it never ceases to amaze me how developers and publishers will bend to the will of a small amount of people. Mm-hmm. But they're the most vocal a lot of times.
Yeah, and also
the most public facing as well because they're on social media slamming them.
And you wonder, how much influence they'll have or how many people they, who knows who they're recommending or not recommending things to. I understand the desire to keep them, keep them quiet, if not happy, quiet.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, clearly, I think they're telling the truth when they said they had no plans to do anything more.
Oh, for sure.
But I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if like the first, either the first or the second expansion, because maybe it's too soon for the first, because the first big expansion I think is supposed to be October, but then the second expansion spring. I wouldn't be surprised if that second expansion maybe had a mod kit update to it that maybe didn't make it as good as Red Kit, but like put it on the level of something where people can make a little more involved content than just what they have now.
I will say I am surprised that these mod tools aren't as robust.
Yeah, that
as
is
Red
surprising.
Kit.
I mean, I was a little shocked to find that out. I wonder. I'd love to know the reasoning or why that happened.
Why would they dedicate so much money and time and effort into the last game, which, look, they knew it was going to do pretty well, Witcher 2.
Yeah.
But they knew The Witcher 3 was going to go crazy.
Yeah.
And it did. And so once you see those first week sales, even if you had this original plan of, okay, well, our tools aren't going to be as robust as they were before, maybe you switch gears at that point and you say, hey, our tools are going to be delayed a little bit, but you're going to be really happy about it. Or at least you change your tune. You put out what you had originally said you were going to put out, or what you had originally planned on putting out. And when you do, you say, hey, look,
this is just a taste.
This is a taste. We're going to come out with more. So, look, there's no easy answer on this, I don't think. I think it's ridiculous for the fans to be banging on them over one statement they made in an interview 3 years ago. I mean, they had
the internet never forgets.
Well, they don't forget because there's Google. I mean, honestly, what they did is they went to Google and searched Witcher 3 Red Kit.
You don't think there's people that are that keep files of all these quotes ready in case? I mean, I guarantee.
I have some faith in humanity.
I guarantee you. I've seen enough on Gaff. I've seen enough crow-eating threads on Gap that there are people that have to keep. What was that one about? There was somebody did some.
It's so vindictive, though. How can you live your life like that?
Someone did some crow-eating thread on. It was. I think it was it was DC versus Mortal Kombat, and someone resurrected a dead thread from 5 years previous where he said this is going to happen and everybody made fun of him, and it was the day it was announced that game was coming out, and he just resurrected it. He's just
I could see if I were the one who made the statement, maybe.
But you see there are people whip up this internet, internet detectiving is so amazing and so fast that I have to imagine that there's some people who, if they care so much about a certain game, they'll kind of keep a file.
I just think that's ridiculous. It's vindictive.
I'm not saying it's not ridiculous. I'm just saying it's out there.
You should find better things to do with your time.
Someone's writing you down right now.
I'm sure. Exactly. So I think it's ridiculous that they're making such a big deal about this, personally. But I also think it's ridiculous that once CD Projekt Red saw the success of Witcher 3, they didn't adjust their strategy a little bit, because you had to know that they knew that when they finally put it out there, that some people were going to be disappointed.
Yeah, what did you think was going to happen? So yeah, I think both. On one hand, I'm that's kind of silly to scream about it, but on the other hand, it's amazing to me that they have to get angry about that shit, because it's you
didn't get your money's worth,
especially with considering The Witcher 2 to The Witcher 3. Yeah, it's you wouldn't expect anything in The Witcher 3 to be lesser or smaller scale than The Witcher 2.
Right,
and you finally hit the one thing that is. And it's the mod tools.
Yeah,
it's weird. Maybe they
don't. And selfishly, I do want them to renege.
Yeah, because
I want to see what people would create with this stuff.
I'm what are you afraid that that the fan community will make that Cyberpunk game before you do? Is that the worry?
It could happen.
It could.
All right, it's time to move on to D23. D23 is Disney's big get-together. They talk about all of their upcoming products, games, movies, all that type of stuff. Obviously, since Disney has purchased the Star Wars license, it has taken on kind of a new,
different,
a whole life of its own now. And
Disney
Star Wars,
and Marvel now part of D23. It's a very different convention.
Yep. And so one of the biggest announcements for games, at least in my opinion, probably the biggest announcement was the limited edition Star Wars PlayStation 4 console that you're seeing right now on the screen. It's got Darth Vader on it. It's got its own controller, which now they're saying you may be able to get on its own. They're kind of waffling back and forth on it.
I would like that.
The bundle,
here's
what I don't understand. Maybe you know the answer to this, Matt. Does the bundle come with both Disney Infinity and Battlefront, or do you buy separate bundles for each game? I never could really figure that out.
I'm not clear on that. I didn't look at it that closely, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, and then you get some old Star Wars games. I think you get Super Star Wars,
Super Star Wars? Is that way everybody's talking about it?
Yeah,
Twitter,
it's like a downloadable code or whatever.
Good luck, kids.
Yep.
Super Star Wars is no joke.
It is, yeah. It's a tough game. And then another big announcement we're seeing right now is the Star Wars arcade game, which is called Battle Pod. Star Wars Battle Pod. Yeah. The story with this is that it sells for like $40,000 or $30,000.
Yeah, it's like a full immersion, like you can play it probably like Dave and Buster's or like those big kind of arcade amusement places.
And it is worth going to a Dave and Buster's to play because very few people are gonna be able to afford to buy this privately for $30,000 or $40,000. But there it is. There's two different versions of it. Which one of those would you buy, Matt?
Oh, the Imperial one. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
because it's black.
Yeah,
you're right.
Also, it
would look better in the.
I'm not saying I'm one of those weird people who thinks the Empire is the good guys because that's crazy because they blew a planet up.
Right.
But I am one of the people that thinks the Empire's aesthetic choices are cooler.
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with
that.
100%.
TIE Fighter. I love TIE Fighters and AT-ATs and all that stuff.
If you're thinking about putting that thing in your den, the black will certainly look better than the other color, the goldish color. And then the other thing too is that they've actually upgraded a little bit for the home release. Like the seat now shakes. There's like hydraulics on the seat while you play. And then if you order it, you get like this crazy metal plate on the side of the... I wish I could afford something like this. I would totally buy it.
And I wish I had room and could afford something like... I would do that.
I can't even afford a Miss Pac-Man cocktail sitting on an arcade machine, so... I think that was way out of my price range.
Maybe we could get a review copy.
Yeah. I don't know if it would fit in our studio, but I would make it fit somehow.
It would just we would do the show from it.
From the pod, yeah.
It is two-seater.
So those were two cool announcements, and then another one was Kingdom Hearts is going to be in Disney Infinity. Mm-hmm. There is a crossover happening with Kingdom Hearts. Not a ton of details about it, honestly. There's some kind of a Keyblade.
It's the ultimate reward, because each Disney Infinity has an ultimate reward where you I think you do everything and you get every character up to like level 10 or so. I don't remember what it was because I've never been crazy enough to do it. But you have to have like every character up to a certain level, all the things collected and everything, and you unlock the ultimate reward. And like in the first Disney Infinity, it was a lightsaber. Oh. And in the second one, I think it was the ultimate nullifier from Fantastic Four, and then this one, the Keyblade, is I think going to be supposed to be the ultimate reward. And then
you explained it perfectly.
Yeah. Well, and then there's I guess if you went to the which sadly I did not do. If you went to the Infinity presentation at D23, I guess you got a costume power disc for Infinity 3.0 that puts Mickey in the Kingdom Hearts, his King Mickey outfit, which is pretty awesome. And you could only get it there. They're never going to sell it. They say they're never going to sell it any other way.
This is a really great idea for both games, by the way.
Yes.
This will keep Kingdom Hearts in the mind's eye while they're waiting for the game to be finished.
Yeah.
And it will also just increase the demand for Disney Infinity probably twofold, I'm guessing. I mean, people are going to freak out over it. They're going to start grinding to try to get that Keyblade.
And it's going to sell a lot of those figures because you'll need all the
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Maybe it's more genius than I even thought.
And they also said Big Hero 6 will have a world in Kingdom Hearts 3 that continues the story.
That's right. Big Hero 6 will have a stage in Kingdom Hearts. And they put out some concept art for that and showed... What's the lead character in Big Hero 6?
Hero and Baymax.
I have not seen the movie. I've heard it's really good.
I like it. I mean, it's, I think they, it's not at all like the comic. It's very different from the comic, but I think they nailed it as far as a Disney adaptation of that idea.
Yeah, they put out some concept art for that. That's pretty much all they've put out.
It's a real natural fit for Kingdom Hearts, I think.
Yep. And then Disney Infinity Star Wars The Force Awakens, they're going to have, is it a play set for that?
Yeah, it's a play set. So basically you'll have a play set for each era. It comes with the Twilight of the Republic, the prequel play set, and then they'll have Rise Against the Empire, which is the original trilogy set, shortly after, or if you buy the PlayStation 4 super duper version, it comes with that a month early or something. And then now you'll have the Force Awakens set, so you'll have.
They also have the Clone Wars stuff, right?
Yeah, that's Twilight of the Republic is the Clone Wars stuff. It comes with the set, the starter set.
I just showed my Star Wars knowledge to be a little deficient.
Well, they're named a little weird, but the starter set is the Twilight of the Republic and Anakin and Ahsoka from the Clone Wars. So gotcha. Your default one is the prequel stuff because the kids love the prequels. I mean, it's not our thing, sure, but the kids love the prequels.
I still like the prequels.
I think they're cool.
Well, I guess a better way to put it is I don't hate them.
Right, and also the more lightsabers, the better. and especially in a game.
Yeah.
And they've done a lot of work on this thing to like, they've brought in Ninja Theory to do all the melee combat, and like so they've really tried to create a legit melee combat system for the Saber characters, and like I played at E3, I played it at D23, and it feels good.
This game is really confusing to me, by the way, Disney Infinity. Like, I can't understand like the verbiage for everything. It's like there's play sets, and then there's like a toy box, and like I don't get what all that stuff is.
Well, the play sets are levels. The play sets are like full levels. So like imagine you bought an actual, it's essentially like a game. It's a game based on whatever property.
Okay.
Then the toy box is sort of like a general open mod zone. So like the toy box can be like an open plane, and you just drop things you want to drop in. You can build your own levels and upload them. There's like extra discs you can buy that kind of they're toy box like adventures or something, and you kind of put like they had them in the Marvel one where you put like it was like a.
But see what I'm saying? Like already, how long is it taking you to describe
it's like
this?
This disc and this. It's very complicated, but it's like
and it's a kid's game.
But like kids get that.
They get it. I know that's what I'm saying. They get it, and I don't get it.
Yeah. So like, because I played a little bit of Infinity at E3 or not E3 and D23. And D23, I ended up like in part of the hub, I guess, and like it's robust. Like even in an individual playset, because they used to be kind of like one area. Like the Avengers playset in 2.0 was like it's like basically most of Manhattan.
Right.
Spider-Man playset was like a different kind of a little sort of different part of Manhattan, but you kind of had an open world, but it was sort of one place. And now the Star Wars one. You can like hyperspace. There's like space combat, and you can hyperspace to like different planets, and like it looks like it's way bigger. It feels almost like a full-fledged game now, and with like all these like little extra side quests and a little you got a sidekick, like a little cute sidekick that comes with you, like a Disney character. I saw a guy playing over the weekend at D23. He was Darth Maul. And he had Darkwing Duck.
Yeah, I saw that. It's like you have a little like minion that follows. I can't believe how complicated the game is for what's essentially a kid's game. But
yeah, it's weird because I didn't get it either till I picked up 2.0 on like clearance or like it was on like big sale at Target like a month or so ago, and I'm like, I'm going to try this because I'm in for Infinity 3.0, so I want to see what this is about. And like, it was interesting that like after about an hour of messing with the tutorial and kind of play, I got it. Like it's very hard to explain, but once you get your hands on it, it makes sense much faster. I guess I would say it's the closest I can get to it. And it's it's growing a lot. Each 2.0 was a lot more robust than the 1.0, and 3.0 looks like it's going to take it even further. So I'm looking forward. I mean, I'm in the same way I look forward to the Lego games. It's got a similar vibe. It's got the toy box thing. Everything's a toy. Like, when you cut people apart, they're just, they're
Infinity
toys.
Sales have like hit rock bottom, by the way. So this came at the perfect time for this franchise.
I think, I hate to say it because, not to spend more money, but I think they should put more figures out. All the 2.0 figures were basically all released by, I think, March this year. Yeah. And so they've had like 6 months
where they could have just
with nothing new.
Dripping them out. Yeah.
And like, so and even when this one launches on the 30th, I think the only other Star Wars figures you can buy are Yoda and Obi-Wan.
That's a big mistake.
And so like they're slowly rolling them out like over the course of the fall, and like I want Darth Vader right now. So I wonder like maybe you need to just flood a little more, and like instead of making. I appreciate that it's easy to collect them all, but like Skylanders puts out like 44 new figures a year.
Look how many amiibos there are already.
Yeah. So maybe of all people, Disney needs to like go for broke a little more.
But it's merchandising. I never thought I'd say that about Disney.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why you would be, and also each character in that game has its own skill tree, has its own, they don't like just dash these guys off. Like, everybody, if you look at the skill trees on the characters that were at D23, it's like, so like Darth Maul feels very different from Anakin, feels very different from Darth Vader. They're not just
it's not just a texture swap or whatever.
They're real, they're real characters. But like, my only advice to them would be like more. Make sure you've always got new product on that shelf.
And then the final semi-big gaming announcement from D23 was a new mode for Star Wars Battlefront. The Supremacy mode. Which is actually
Conquest.
A Conquest mode, basically. Yeah. And the crazy thing that's come out now in the last couple days is that they have said that this mode could conceivably go on forever. Like one match could
because every time you capture something, you get more time added on. Is that
there's just like this. It's possible there's a self-perpetuating cycle with this mode where the games could just go on for eternity. Is that a good thing?
Maybe. I guess like.
Here's one thing I'll say. Like one thing I love about Rocket League is that each match is 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's so easy to say I can play another one because you know exactly how much time it's going to take. If my wife calls and she's on the way home from work and we're going to go out and get dinner or whatever, I know how long it takes her to get home from work. I know if I can squeeze in another game of Rocket League. Like, to me, that's a big part of multiplayer gaming.
I just wonder, I feel like for it to last forever, you would need the most insanely evenly matched teams of like all time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, the probability of it happening is pretty low.
But I do love the idea of like an eternal game of supremacy that like, players drop in, they drop, they join back up, and it's just like this, like it's one eternal game that never ends because like somehow like the right mix of like the matchmaking keeps it going forever. And
it's like the 24 hours of Le Mans of video games.
It will make for a pretty good like Let's Play or like a marathon, like a charity marathon.
Right. Well, maybe when we do the subscriber drive towards the end of the year for Sifted, maybe when the game comes out, maybe that will be the mode.
Battlefront game.
We'll try to do Battlefront one mode or one match for like a day and see if it works. So
Battlefront till you drop.
Yeah, but overall, D23 is kind of turning into a rather significant show for video games now.
Yeah, and it's like they had the full Disney Infinity and Battlefront setups there from E3. I think it was the booths from E3. But they were all there. They were crowded. People were interested. It was not this. I mean, I think it was more like like a 30-minute wait to play Battlefront as opposed to the 3-hour wait at E3. But you could see, like, this is the first time I'd ever been to D23. But I've seen pictures. I know enough about it that like it used to be all Disney,
Yeah.
And now like you can see the Marvel presence, you can see the Star Wars presence, and as Star Wars comes out and as Star Wars gets absorbed into that family, like Disney Infinity 3.0 is the Star Wars. The Star Wars' first foray into the Disney world, basically. They're being brought together. You can have Darth Vader and Mickey Mouse standing next to each other.
Yeah,
and
pretty bizarre.
And I think especially assuming the movies and other content are good out of Disney, I think it's just going to be more and more Star Wars. And clearly with EA's new deal with them, they intend to make Star Wars video games a staple in the future. We've had kind of a drought of Star Wars video games.
We have, yeah.
And now you've got Battlefront, blowing the doors open, and hopefully, we got Amy Hennig's game on deck, and
which I'm assuming we'll probably see at D23 next year. It'll definitely be at E3 next year, and follow suit to go to D23. So
yeah, and hopefully more to come. I mean, I'm all in. More Star Wars.
I'm down.
More Star Wars.
Definitely. All right, so the next topic is controversial. The last topic was fun. This one's a little controversial. So this past week, a member of Nintendo's Treehouse got himself into a little bit of trouble. Basically what happened is, the guy's name is Chris Pranger or Pranger. I'm not sure how you pronounce it.
I've been saying Pranger in my head. I don't know if that's true.
So the guy's been working at the Treehouse for quite a while. For those of you who don't know, the Treehouse is basically the secret society inside Nintendo who translates games from Japan. You can see the guy right now. He's the guy on the left with the Nintendo tracksuit on. And so this guy went on a podcast. I believe the podcast was called Part-Time Gamers. It's not a big podcast. It's just basically kind of a Nintendo fan podcast thing. And he went on there, and they started asking him questions about what was it like to work at Nintendo. And so he started talking a little bit. And as we all know, Nintendo does things culturally a little differently. If you haven't read my editorial that I wrote when Iwata passed away, it kind of talks a little bit about how Nintendo works with people in the games industry and how they handle things differently. Well, their corporate culture is really no different. It's kind of the same thing. They're very strict. It's actually a little bit like Konami, although not quite as Big Brother-ish. So Chris goes on this podcast, and he's talking to the other people on the show, and he starts talking about things like why they don't bring over some games from Japan when fans are asking for them. And he got, look, I don't know if Matt, did you see some of the quotes that he made regarding this?
Yeah, I saw the quotes.
So, look, I feel like he does maybe step right up to that line a little bit, because he starts talking.
I think the line was making the voice. Like he did. I don't know if you heard like any of the audio from the podcast.
No, I haven't.
But when he talks about what people like, what fans are saying, he does like a voice kind of thing, and he kind of like
a condescending voice.
Yeah, he's basically portraying the hardcore fans as like people. So like, or I guess it was kind of more like a comic book guy, like Simpsons voice sort of thing. But like I want Xenoblade right now kind of thing, and like it's just like you can't. I mean, nothing he flat out said was super weird.
Well, let's talk about what he said first before we move on. So one of the things that he said was he was talking about how fans don't really understand the business side of producing video games, right. And he was saying how they complain, and he was saying how it sounds like a great idea to bring a game like Xenoblade Chronicles to the West, but somebody has to pay the hundreds of thousands of dollars to handle all the voicing and the translation and everything. And he made a comment about how Nintendo Europe kind of fell on. I think it was his exact statement was they fell on the sword, and so that. Corporately, that's a little funky. You're kind of making Nintendo Europe look like they were suckers a little bit there.
You're kind of making Nintendo America look like they were opportunists a little bit, and like didn't care about the fans. I mean, whatever you think about how bad or how good or how accurate what he said was, it was clearly not on message.
No, for sure. Especially not on Nintendo's message, which has a very specific message.
Yeah.
And then, what are some of the other things he said? He said that... he was talking about how he let them behind the curtain a little bit, too. And he basically told some of the people on the show that, sometimes we voice stuff, like the Treehouse people voice stuff to save money.
And don't. No.
And look, again, I'm not saying that stuff that this guy said he should have said. I mean, he definitely made some mistakes in what he was saying. But at the same time, at most publishers in the industry... he would not have been fired for this. And look, one thing we would...
You think?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think most people would have got fired for what he did. You think they would have?
I think they probably.
Really?
Well, especially at Nintendo, but like...
No, that's what I'm saying.
You gotta gauge your corporate culture, obviously, but it didn't surprise me.
Here's the thing you learn if you're a manager, is that everybody makes mistakes. My guys at GT made mistakes. One of them made a huge mistake, like a bigger mistake than I ever could have fathomed, like that person would make. And actually that mistake was related to Nintendo, oddly enough. And you got to let people make mistakes. They're going to make them. And you can't just can people if they make one mistake. Now look, we don't know if this was like the fifth thing that he's done, or if he did other things and this was like the final nail in the coffin for him at Nintendo, but if this was indeed like his first offense, and it sure sounds like it based upon the stuff that he wrote on Facebook, like he was pretty candid on Facebook and he took responsibility for what he did, and he's like, yeah, I'm surprised I lost my job, but I did screw up and I'm sorry for it, and this was my dream job and I've lost my dream job due to a mistake that I made. Again, he was pretty candid in what he said, and he didn't mention like, I had done a couple other things or anything like that would lead to this.
I wouldn't have if I did other things, yeah.
Well, I mean... I don't know. He was being really honest otherwise, and so it would strike me as a little weird if he would conveniently leave out stuff like that, if he was going on there to take responsibility for what he did. So I'm assuming that he hadn't made any other egregious mistakes. And so firing an employee from one mistake, man, if you make that your policy, you're going to be constantly looking for employees, because employees always screw up. Everybody screws up. We're all human, and no human is perfect, and no human ever will be perfect. And so I'm honestly a little shocked that he lost his job over this.
I might have been shocked if, say, something like that happened with G4 and someone lost their job at G4, like when we were there.
Yeah.
But maybe this is just my impression of Nintendo, but if I had done that as an employee of Nintendo, I would have been waiting for the hammer to come down immediately. I just feel like Nintendo... maybe it's just because we've dealt with Nintendo, and like you say, someone made a mistake related to Nintendo, and that was one of the reasons that mistake would be important. Whenever we made mistakes related to Nintendo, things got scary.
No, you pay.
Because Nintendo remembers.
Look, I'm not going to go into the punishment that they handed us at GT, but I will say that they did hand us a punishment, and it was very severe.
Yeah, and so
I will
internally, I would imagine it's even, and that's the thing, is you're never going to run out of people like that guy, like Chris Pranger, whose dream job is Nintendo. So on one hand, you're always, if you're that strict, you're going to be looking, but there's going to definitely be people that are willing to keep their mouth shut and not go, because I don't know what you're thinking when you do that, when you go on a podcast and talk about internal situations at your job.
Yeah, he wasn't thinking at all.
That is a massive corporate entity, international, global corporate entity that's been around for 100 years, run by a family in Japan.
That also has a reputation for being ball breakers.
Yeah, no nonsense.
And also, this guy has worked there for quite a while. The footage that we've been running is actually footage of him from E3 2014, where he was demoing games. So he has worked there for a while. He had to have understood the corporate culture there.
I just don't know what the benefit for him was going to be on that, because like maybe he thought like it was a small podcast, there wasn't going to be like a big deal where people weren't going to be listening or whatever. But like, to quote the X-Files, when that one fan finds Mulder and Mulder says, I didn't know anybody was paying attention, and the fan says, Mr. Mulder, somebody's always paying attention. Yeah. And like someone's always going to find that.
Well, the other caveat to this too is that he had done the podcast like a week beforehand, and it took a few days
for someone to figure out what was in there.
Well, it took a few days for people to even start listening to it, because when you do a podcast or a little thing, like unless you're doing something crazy, like it's hard to build momentum.
Like GameFace.
Yeah, it's hard to build momentum, especially if you're not like working at a big site or whatever. It's hard to build that audience, and so they didn't have a ton of people watching it at first, but slowly, people started saying, "Hey, wait a minute."
You ever wonder where it's like, you have a certain number of views you always get on a podcast, and then one day you look at your views and it's like
your eyes
20
go,
times.
wow.
What happened? Like what did you find?
They knew they had gold, though. I mean,
I would hope so.
As soon as they banked that podcast, I'm sure they were like, "Oh wow!"
They were just like, "Let's sit back and let it roll." Yeah,
and it took a while, and then it took even longer for Nintendo to catch wind of it. And then once they did, man, it seemed like they canned him like the next day.
Yeah, that was fast. But which makes me think there must be a policy. There must be.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm 100% certain there was some kind of a...
Don't go on a podcast and talk about your job at Nintendo unless you've cleared it with...
I mean, it probably is just don't go on a podcast, period, if you're a part of the Treehouse. So,
because how many other points of contact with the public does Nintendo have other than, there was Iwata, there was Reggie, and...
You know what happens in a lot of these cases, and this is what I feel like happened with my GT employee, is his ego. Like, this guy had information that he could share with people, and he knew that he would gain him attention. He ended up getting the wrong kind of attention. When the guy that worked for me made the mistake, like, he couldn't really come up with a reason why he did it, but I knew why he did it, and it was because it was for attention. And a lot of times, man, people's thirst for attention makes them do really stupid stuff.
Thinking back on all the similar things that happened in places I've been, it's always been someone was like, "Oh, I'm going to be
I can
the
be
cool
this,
guy that
I can
has
do
the
that."
early idea, the early footage, or the early,
early
inside
whatever,
scoop or whatever."
Yep.
I get
it's
that
narcissism.
Yeah, I get
that's really what it is.
I don't think I've ever succumbed to that. I feel like
you're smart enough to know it's a bad decision to make.
I value what we do.
Yeah.
I love doing what we get to do, and like I wouldn't jeopardize that in the name of, I don't know, getting people to listen to me babble on a podcast. Like
some would say it's Darwinism.
Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for the guy. It sucks. Is I know what it feels like to have your dream job and then all of a sudden not know
it's gone.
It's gone, and you don't know what you're going to do with the rest of your life. It's
particularly when you work in a niche field like gaming, because there are only so many jobs, and so if you lose your job and there's not one immediately open and you don't have a lot of money in the bank, you're suddenly looking for a job outside the industry, and once you do that, you're probably gone for good. So,
and X-Play ended very naturally,
right?
Whereas, like, I can't even imagine what it's like if it's
to
your
just
fault.
have it. Yeah, exactly.
If you did it to yourself,
if it was something you did,
that's got to be a hard thing he's going through right now.
So, Chris, we feel for you, brother, but hopefully you can look back and not blame it all on somebody else. You can take some responsibility for it, but we definitely feel for you, man.
And I hope you can still enjoy Nintendo games.
Yeah,
because clearly it's what he loves.
Yeah, for sure. I think he said that he's a huge Nintendo fan. It was his dream job, and blah blah blah. So good luck moving forward, man. Hopefully you find something else in the games industry, and if not, hopefully you find a job that you love. So Matt, here's another trend in games recently: people announcing stuff on Twitter. Like, it used to be like everything was very controlled and very PR-y, and you didn't get any new information about a game unless you interviewed a developer or you got a press release from PR. But recently, like, a lot of big information has been released on Twitter, and that is exactly what has happened with Mass Effect Andromeda this last week. So we don't really know much about the game at all.
Almost nothing.
Like, really almost nothing about this game. Like, it has been completely shrouded in mystery. They let E3 and Gamescom come and go and didn't really share anything. They put out that little teaser trailer at E3.
Makes you wonder how far out it is.
It really does. And it could be 2 years from now, but I highly doubt it. I have a feeling Q4 of next year, but we'll see. But anyway, so one of the developers has been going on Twitter and basically just spilling all this information that would normally be PR in a press release right on his Twitter account. And this week, he confirmed something that we actually talked about last week and suspected, and that is that Mass Effect Andromeda is going to have an entire new cast of characters. We already knew it's taking place in another galaxy, but it is going to have an entirely new cast of characters. He did say that there is a slight chance that there might be a cameo thrown in here or there in the game. I don't know if he's just doing that to toss a bone to fans, to make sure fans stay engaged with Andromeda.
By the nature of the characters, it would not surprise me to see, like, Legion.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you can do the collective computing thing, like, you can justify, the Geth sent probes or, Explorer probes or whatever to Andromeda Galaxy to see what was out there, and now you find one, and he becomes kind of your crew member, and he's Legion.
Yeah.
But, I'm kind of happy about this announcement. I'm a big I love Mass Effect. It's probably my favorite series, other than The Witcher. It's probably my favorite series from last generation.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would agree with you on that.
Yeah, and I'm just I am glad, everyone had their problems or no problems with the ending of 3 and like that. But I really liked the way, in the end, everything wrapped up with the Citadel DLC, and I thought that was, even if I had issues with the ending, I thought the Citadel DLC was the goodbye to those characters that I needed. Mm-hmm. And I'm just glad that they're going to let that rest. Because I don't want them to, torturously find some way to get Morden into, into Andromeda or Liara or something. I don't need any of that. That story's told. Move on. Keep the universe. Tell me something new. Make it as good as it was before. And the other thing is, like, we associate EA with iteration, reiteration. Yeah. It's cool to see that they have taken what I think is the right move here to say we're going to start over. Not totally, but we're going to start over narratively and say...
It's a lot easier when you have an IP like Mass Effect.
True, but imagine how tempting it must be to keep these characters that everybody loves so much.
Well, going back to last week's show when we were talking about some of their other properties like Mirror's Edge, it's like maybe that was a case where they did maybe need to rip up the script a little bit and try something new for the second one, because it isn't sort of a smash success.
But it's like... It's funny, like, you're looking at EA right now, they're taking some risks. They're taking some real
It's paying
stabs.
off, man. Yeah. Their stock price is, like, through the roof. Like, they're making more money than anybody else in the industry. They've translated over to mobile very well, much better than most publishers have. It's kind of funny. I mean, they've really... I mean, I feel like they've also...
Dungeon Keeper-shaped bumps in the road, but yeah, they're on their way.
I mean, Peter Moore probably can be credited with a lot of that success. And I mean, look, they weren't named the worst company to work for in America. I mean, that's a big deal. Yeah. They were named, like, the worst for, like, how many years in a row?
2 years in a row. On top of, like, the banks that caused the 2008 financial crisis. It's like...
Which is ridiculous.
Well, yeah, I mean, clearly there's a certain demographic of us voting for these things, but
it's also funny too because we both know people who work at EA, and they love working there. Yeah. Like, everybody I know that's ever worked at EA loved working there. Like, when people get jobs at EA, like, they go on Facebook, they're like, oh my god, I got a job at EA. Like, it was very clearly, it wasn't the people who worked at EA who were, like, going and voting in these polls. Right. It was just angry video
people
game
who were angry
fans.
At, whatever.
The Mass Effect 3 ending. So the other thing that he announced on his Twitter account is that the gameplay is going to stay primarily the same, which I think we're both totally fine with that. I feel like they really nailed it in Mass Effect 3. Like,
yeah, they had it down.
I mean, that is the one thing in Mass Effect 3 that I thought was the best in the series, was the gameplay and the combat. So now that we know all that stuff, Matt, what is the one thing about that series that you feel like they should change for Andromeda?
I think it's more of a bring it back a little bit, but I think it needs to be more like Starflight. In the same way the first Mass Effect was, where you could land on all those planets and explore and pick stuff up. I mean, the Mass Effect 1 exploration thing was kind of tacked on. I think it was very sparse, and I was disappointed in 2 when all the planet stuff just became scanning.
Right.
And I want to be able to go, I mean, gas giants I can scan fine, but if it's a terrestrial planet, I want to be able to land on it.
For sure,
Even if it's just to look around and find a stupid mineral with the Mako 2 or whatever it's going to be. And, but I want that sense of exploration that wasn't really there in 2 and 3. I mean, there was a sense of exploration, but it was a much more guided experience.
Oh, for sure.
And
intentionally, they did that intentionally,
yeah. But I think I need for Mass Effect Andromeda, as long as we're kind of reinventing things, I need a little No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
I guess would be
It seems like a lot of games are starting to come around. All these random indie, like 3D spaceflight games are popping up now where you can land on the planet.
Steam can't recommend them to me fast enough. Yeah. Like, yes, I know I bought Elite Dangerous. Just leave me alone. Like, I have Elite Dangerous. I don't.
I mean, it's not even a niche genre anymore. Now there are games that are coming out that are like making them more simple. They're like the layman's like spaceflight.
Easier way to do it. But it's like it's almost a genre, an indie genre on par with You're Alone and have to find scraps of paper that tell you a sad story.
Yeah,
which is
definitely
definitely gaining on the pixel art platformer at this point.
I don't know. There's like 5 more of those announced every day. Let me tell you. Debut trailer for some corny side-scrolling pixelated platformer.
And every once in a while you get a Shovel Knight, so it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. And I think the one thing I would say that I hope they change for this one is that they do not tie the campaign into the multiplayer. I think that was my biggest gripe with the
Definitely
last
annoying.
game.
I mean, now once you get all the DLC in place on Mass Effect 3, like you can go through it and never touch multiplayer and get full galactic readiness.
I'm just talking about when I bought the game.
But when you buy the game, you had to play a little bit, and I really did like the co-op multiplayer.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah.
But like the thing about being forced to play it and then it would decay. In the single player game over time. I'm like, no, come on, don't make multiplayer a job.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think they'll change that. Yeah. I would be really surprised if that makes.
They practically changed it in 3 by the time they were done with the DLC.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But no, I agree with you for sure. Like you need to.
That just made no sense to me whatsoever.
Gotta keep them separated. I mean, just don't try it.
Well, then the funny thing is, like some games haven't learned from that. Like Splatoon. Like when you bought it, it's like had nothing to like the multiplayer. Yeah. Like. You had to wait, and like they gradually like cracked the door open and gave you more features and options.
Well, they're doing that with Mario Maker.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, that's what I was leading into. Is like I get Mario Maker. Actually, I just got Mario Maker today, and you can't access the whole toolkit when you start the game. It's a 9-day gradual unlock.
And I heard, I don't know, I haven't touched it yet, but I read, I think on GAF that someone said you can't make Mario World 1-1. Day 1 because you don't get access to the Fire Flower until the second day.
That's hilarious.
And I'm like, that's pretty funny. I mean, I get what they're trying to do, but
what are they trying to do though?
They're trying to ease you into it and not overwhelm you with.
But see, all they could do is just create a tutorial and give you the choice of going through the tutorial or saying, "Screw it, I don't want to use the tutorial." Yeah, that would be the easier way than like just think about the programming that goes into that, setting it up and talking back and forth with your console clock and like. There's an easier way to do it to make sure people aren't overwhelmed.
Yeah, you go home and set your clock to like September 9th and just say, we're done.
But I mean, look, the game doesn't come out for a while, and I was kind of shocked when I got like the game, and then I realized, oh, well, you kind of have to get it now to have the review ready in time because it's going to...
Can you jump the system clock ahead and make that work?
I don't know.
I know Splatoon wouldn't work because it's all tied in the online.
I haven't even started it yet, so I don't know. But
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll find out. But yeah, I mean, again, like... They did not learn the lesson that Mass Effect learned for them, essentially.
I kind of supported, if you can jump the system clock ahead and like unlock it all at once, like if you want to, like I kind of support the idea of easing someone in that isn't as familiar.
That's such a pain in the ass, though, man.
It is a pain in the ass.
Bumping the system clock up because you don't know. Here's the thing: like I'm all paranoid when I do that. I'm afraid it's like screwing up something else in some other game. Like I become overwhelmed with possibilities. I'm like, well, wait a minute.
This is a man who has been well trained by Mr. Rossetti.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think we both have crazy high hopes for Mass Effect. I think also, like, honestly, I don't feel like they need to change a ton. Like,
no, I think they
give us a new setting,
make it bigger,
new
make it better, make it prettier, make it good.
Maybe toss in vehicles.
Yeah, I'd like to see them take another stab at the Mako. I mean, The Mako was part comedy, part frustration.
Right.
But I like the idea.
Yeah.
I will always love things that are kind of extrapolations of Starflight, another EA game.
Yeah.
If you could go on GOG and try Starflight 1 and 2, they're cheap. They're very hard to figure out because their interfaces are ancient. But like they were so good. I love the Starflight games, and I don't even remember the story because I just flew around talking to aliens and digging up minerals on alien planets. And,
yeah.
I mean, if Mass Effect can kind of deliver some of that, I'm in.
Yeah, and something more than the Mako. Give us more vehicles.
Yeah, give us something that flies. Give me some Starship combat. I'll be against that. You know, I mean, maybe we won't have Joker. Maybe I can fly the ship myself. You know, little fighter action.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the last topic of the Big Six. We've been talking about Windows 10 and Xbox One a lot over the last few weeks on the show, but the news just keeps on coming, folks. The biggest news this week is that Windows 10 has the ability to look through your PC and essentially zap pirated games.
Nasty.
Now look, I'll just say straight up, I hate piracy. I stand against it. I will always stand against it. Even if I'm dirt poor, I will stand against it because that's the excuse everybody uses. Well, I'm poor and I should be able to play. No, you shouldn't. Like, if you can't afford the games, you shouldn't be playing them. Like,
you wouldn't download a car.
Yeah, exactly. Although that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'll 3D print that Lamborghini. Like, wait for it.
Yeah. So I'm completely against piracy. Like 1,000,000%. Like, I have stood that way for years and I always will stand that way. But I am completely against this because this is where it starts, see? And this is the thing. Microsoft didn't learn its lessons from the unveiling of the Xbox One. It's like when you start invading people's privacy or you start demanding things of people or doing things to people that they don't have control over or they don't know about. Because here's the other thing. Like, they didn't announce this. It was like hidden in the end user licensing agreement. And somebody finally read the stupid thing for Windows 10, because who reads any of those? Like, I could have already signed away
Same people that keep the lists of quotes.
Right. I could have already signed away like my life savings to like iTunes because like, you know, they update every other day and like if you just accept it. You don't read like the terms of service.
There could be anything in that.
Yeah.
It could say that at any point, like if say like you sign the EA thing, you know, maybe the Star Wars: The Old Republic EULA says that at any point if Peter Moore wants to borrow my car, I have to let him.
Yeah, exactly.
And I agreed to that. Like,
There's no way to know. So that somebody actually read the one. How long is the end user licensing agreement for Windows 10? It has to be like as long as a Bible, I'm guessing. But somebody read it and found this and dug it out, and so they can basically spy on your computer. And so it begins with, okay, pirated software, which I don't even know how they do that. Obviously, I don't think they can find ROMs and stuff like that and zap a ROM. I'm guessing they're talking about stuff that like jumps around like DRM and...
Well, I figure they must be talking about like, you know, there's only so many pirated, there usually seems to be like one or two versions of a pirated game, like because everybody torrents it and that's how that works. So like, I figure they're probably looking for you know, a file of that name, a file of that size, a file with certain markers in it that, you know, ironically, they had to download the pirated version of the game to analyze. But you know, I'm sure they're looking for something like that. But like, it's weird to me that. I mean, do we know if they're actually doing that, or is it just something that Windows 10 says it?
They haven't really commented on it yet.
Because like, if they're actively doing it, it's sort of like. You remember when the Xbox One was first announced? Everybody freaked out about the restrictive stuff
and the
Kinect spying on you and stuff, and people did that like. That comic, there was some comic about or
wait,
like,
that isn't true?
No.
I thought the Kinect does spy on you.
No.
Oh, I thought that was true.
I don't think it's true.
I think it is, man.
I don't think it's true. Or you could see it in your upload history. Like you'd notice that.
Do you think?
Mine's unplugged. I don't know. I don't know. But like there was a
paranoia.
But there was a comic where they were basically like it was like, oh, you're not, you're like going to disable all this stuff and it's not going to spy on you and I promise not to spy on you. And then the Kinect's like, you know that shirt doesn't go with those pants, right? And it's like that's the kind of thing you're sort of like,
see, another thing about this
stuff like this is not going to convince anyone that the other stuff like that isn't happening because clearly I think some paranoia where it comes to Microsoft has been shown to exist.
And probably for good reason.
Yeah, well, if stuff like this is in the EULA, like I can't blame someone for being I don't really care. I don't have any pirated games on me, but I don't want them digging through my hard drive.
Well, here's the thing, like, where does it end, right? Because then next they're going to start looking for like who pirated Photoshop, who pirated blah blah blah. And I mean, look, let's be honest. Like, I believe everybody has had at least like one copy of software that they borrowed from a friend, or maybe they did pirate it or whatever. But look, I've had copies of software on my hard drives before that I borrowed from friends, and they let me have their CD key to like install it on my machine. I'm not going to lie. I'm not acting like I'm all goody two-shoes. I think everybody has probably at one point or another had something on their computer that wasn't 100% legal for them to have there and to be using. And so, you know, the other thing is, where does it go from there? They start going in like zapping people's programs and things like that, which could put people in a bad pinch. Like, and then if you know, to bring it to games like with the Xbox One, you know, how does that all relate to Xbox One and things like that? Now that like the Xbox One is streaming to the PC, is the Xbox One going to start going onto your PC and start looking for like? It just starts opening up the door for all this other stuff that could happen on down the road. Like right now, I don't really have a problem with them zapping people's pirated games. Like,
but it's like, I wonder if, you know, are they really after games with that, or do you think, or are they after like stuff like you said, like Photoshop
or pirated Windows,
pirated Avid, pirated, you know, all that? Because, you know, I'm talking about the programs that cost like $500 to $1,000.
Sure, I mean, you think about it. If you're Avid, and Avid costs way more than that.
Oh yeah.
So think about it. If you're Avid and you go to Microsoft and you say, look, if you can find a way to detect and zap our pirated software on a computer, we will pay you X amount of dollars per copy that you zap. I mean, that could be a highly lucrative deal for Microsoft to strike. And so, look, I'm not saying that they did or they didn't, but the problem is opening the door for that stuff. Like this policy is opening the door for a lot of bad things that could potentially happen, and things that are going to affect people who aren't just pirates.
And how foolproof is it? How likely is it that something, you know, someone who's legitimately an owner of the software accidentally gets zapped, and then what do they do? Like, how do you prove that?
I mean, look, it's an anti-consumer stance is what Microsoft is taking with this. And Microsoft should
It's very much an assumption that you're guilty before proven innocent.
And Microsoft should have learned that you don't treat your customers this way with the whole Xbox One unveiling. Because, again, they treated us, its customers, like we were idiots and we were just going to lap up whatever they gave us. And when they found out that wasn't the case, and they're like, oh, okay, well, now.
So do you think like piracy is just something that like a publisher has to kind of accept? Like,
you'll never stop it.
Yeah, like there's always, I mean, it's like when you're shipping goods, you assume like a certain percentage is going to be lost to like graft.
Yeah.
You know, like that's just going to be how it is.
Or like you're shipping fruit and you just know a certain amount of those fruits are going to be bad by the time it gets there. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I'm sure at this point publishers already have that built into their business models. Like this is the shrink. And you know, there's those age-old arguments of, well, just because I pirated doesn't mean I was going to buy it in the first place. Like, you're not really losing money. And then, like, I saw some comments on YouTube.
That is just, I've always thought that was one of the weirdest pieces of pseudo-logic I've ever seen.
Well, you know, here's the worst one, Matt. Today, when I was, like, doing some research for this story, I came upon, like, a YouTube rant video where some guy was going off about it or whatever. And the comments, here's one of the comments that were in the comments, and it is YouTube, so I'll just put that out there.
In.
Yeah. The people were saying, well, stealing video games is different. Because if you go to a store and you steal a TV, they have one less TV to sell. But if you steal a video game, it doesn't take away from their inventory.
Yeah, the idea that it doesn't harm anyone because no physical object I've heard that one too. It's, my dad used to say people steal anything.
Yeah.
And that's just, you know, I don't think you're ever going to stop it. You can curtail it. You can make it easy for the customer. I think the better way to go is to make it easy for the customer to legally own it.
Right.
You know, like, I think Steam has been a big boon in that regard because it's like, look, if you don't want it, you don't want to pay $59.99 for a game, wait a year and it'll be like $20 in a Steam sale. You know, like I think that's a much more effective deterrent than for a lot of people who might otherwise pirate, because there's always going to be people that are going to pirate no matter what. They're not going to spend a dime on games. Period.
Well, the Steam sales and Humble Bundles have basically completely invalidated even the arguments that I brought up before about, you know, I'm poor and I don't have money. Like, when you can go on Humble Bundle now and spend like whatever you want to get like
nothing.
Like nothing. And get like 20 games or what? Like, there's no excuse now for saying I don't have money and I need money to play video games.
And there's so many. I mean, Humble Bundle does like crazy in that regard. I mean, all, you know, and there's like, you know, indie Gala Bundle or all. I mean, there's all those different bundle sites now. I mean, a few weeks ago I got it was like the game, you know, the game dev bundle or whatever on Humble Bundle. it was like $3,000 worth of like game, like like RPG Maker and like kind of like amateur game dev stuff, and it was $15. Like the max price that you pay to get everything, the minimum price you pay to get everything, $15.
You could never play all those games before you died.
No.
So yeah,
I already can't.
I don't have any money, but I deserve to be able to play video games thing. It really doesn't hold water anymore at all for pirates.
I would agree, but it's like I said. I think some people are always going to do it, and you're never going to stop them.
Yeah.
And the solution is not to point a giant scanner pistol at me.
Yeah.
And people that are well, you should prove. It's the TSA things. Like you should prove you're not a terrorist or whatever. It's like, well. That's not really how it works.
Yeah, it's not how it works.
And it's certainly not the way you get me to spend more money on you.
Oh, yeah. Or in the future, ever spend money with you again. And that's one thing I would say is that Microsoft needs to come out and make a statement about this, because otherwise it's just going to turn into another controversy that they get embroiled in.
Especially because, like, what if it's just in there, and what if that isn't even in Windows 10?
Right.
And they weren't going to do that, but it was just in the language.
Yeah.
And, like, just clarify.
Or they just left it in there in case they do it.
Because they decided to try something like that later, but, like, just
Well, the funny thing is like, they could have not put it in the end user license agreement and done it, and we'd have never known.
True.
All right, so that's going to do it for the Big Six. It's time to move on to our trailer of the week. Some weeks we don't have good ones. This week we have an amazing trailer of the week. It is for Uncharted, the Nathan Drake collection. One thing I got to say about this, Matt, is that this remaster of the first 3 Uncharted games looks, and you'll see it in this trailer, I don't know if you've seen it or not, looks better than a lot of games that are coming out for the PlayStation 4 just for the PlayStation 4.
Well, it's Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
Naughty Dog is the top of the industry right now, I'd say. One of them.
Without a doubt. When Uncharted 4 comes out, they're going to do the same exact thing they did with Uncharted 3, just smack everyone else aside and be like, this is how you do it. So, anyway, this is a great trailer, by the way. It spans all 3 games. It's all based on the story and the cutscenes throughout the games. Let's just get to it. Roll it.
That was a nice lift back there. But you got a lot to learn.
Crap!
You stick with me and I'll teach you a few things.
No offense, but I don't even know you.
My friends call me Sully.
Nathan Drake.
Mr. Sullivan. And Mr. Drake.
Would you tell me what's so special about that ring?
It belongs in my family.
Inscribed with Sir Francis Drake's motto.
Greatness from small beginnings.
Just what is it you're after?
That's just a little historical research.
Don't tell me you're buying into all that supernatural nonsense.
You love all this as much as I do.
No.
Nate, these guys are playing for keeps.
Yeah, so?
You would go to the ends of the earth for me, Nate.
Now what do? We jump?
Just don't ask me to.
Shall we?
You get off on all this. Cheating death.
But that's not how it will end. This is how it will end.
I'm sorry.
Sully! We don't get to choose how we start in this life.
Had to try.
Real greatness. It's what you do with the hand you dealt.
You're a crook, right? What do you want from me?
I see great things in our future, kid. Great things.
What do you think about that, Matt?
I'm into it. I love the Uncharted games.
Yeah, me too.
At the considering the holiday release schedule this year, asking me to play 3 games I've already played is
That's not
a bit of a tall order.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure I'll play through Uncharted 2 again because it's my favorite.
I don't know if I'll play through it again.
I want to see that train thing again in the full remake because the train sequence. I know people know it's impressive, but like. The train sequence in Uncharted 2 is one of the most impressive things anyone has ever done in a video game.
In real time, for sure. Yeah.
All in real time. Like, there's physics working on the train in the world, and then on the characters on the train, and then on the objects in the train, also affected by the physics of the overall world, while in the and the train on the tracks and on the wheels and the wheels and the suspension. I mean, they that was the first thing they started and the last thing they finished in that game, and it's you never notice it because it looks so natural. You never see how amazing it is until you really think about all they had to do.
Uncharted 4 is even beyond. In fact, there's a couple videos on Sifted right now where a couple guys on YouTube have gone in and just literally just went like frame by frame and pointed out all the little things that game. It is just mind-boggling, dude. Like,
I don't know how Naughty Dog does it.
How do they get their game
detail? There's as much detail in that like 12-minute chunk from E3 as in
entire
full other game.
Entire games, dude. It is.
I don't, and it's on the screen for a split second. It reminds me of the old Star Wars movies, where I remember seeing Return of the Jedi, and my dad, who was a big movie guy, pointed out to me, like when I was a kid, but he pointed out to me like it's like one of the most impressive things about those movies to him was that they built these huge sets, like the giant Jabba sail barge, and you never really see the whole thing. It's just where it happens to take place, and then they blow it up. It's like, they're not like, look at this amazing thing we made. It's like, no, we had to make this thing because this is where this happens, and then we're just going to treat it like a stairway we found, or like a normal building. And it's and that kind of, that super attention to detail combined with that super casual kind of like we're taking the story in the front seat as opposed to showing off our work. That is one of the things I always think of what he said about Star Wars in relation to Uncharted, where it's like, and Last of Us, where it's just like that level of detail that convinces you almost subconsciously that what you're seeing is real or believable.
I honestly don't know if there's another developer right now on a technical level that's even in Naughty Dog's league.
I don't know enough about game programming to say one way or the other, but I know as far as what meets my eyes, Naughty Dog is in its own class.
Yeah, it's their world. Everyone else is just playing in it. Yeah. I mean, look, those games are old, and they look better than most games that are coming out now for these platforms. So imagine, I mean, the same thing's going to happen with Uncharted 4.
Yeah, I can't wait for the PlayStation 5 remaster of Uncharted 4.
Right. And you know what? It's going to hold up really well. Because great. When you do all that hard work sort of under the hood, when you rip the hood off later on, it still looks amazing. Yeah. So
on the PlayStation 5, when you can play from Nathan Drake's point of view in the Morpheus 2, it'll all up-res beautifully.
Yep. All right, so it's time to move on to our deep dive. And our deep dive this week is Call of Duty Black Ops 3 multiplayer. I was fortunate enough to get in on the beta a day or two early. I played it all day. Well, not all day yesterday. I worked a good bit too, but I knew we were going to talk about it on the show today, so I played it a lot.
That's work.
I actually played it last night, and I fell asleep while I was playing it and woke up, and I had been kicked out of a match. So, where do you start with this? First of all, the fact of the matter is I don't know where to start because
as someone who, you've played all the Call of Duties.
All of them,
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anything about this that jumps out at you as like, oh, this is different? Like this is an improvement. This is a lateral move. This is not like what we had before.
Well, the first thing I would say is that, we're coming off of Advanced Warfare. They had the exosuits and the full 360-degree range of movement, and not just you can move it in 360. You could like dash in any direction. And so the first thing I would say about this game is that it actually kind of takes a bit of a step back in that regard. Like you can wall run in this game, and you kind of like vacuum onto the wall while you're wall running, but you can't jump and then dash in a direction. In fact, one of the things I loved about Advanced Warfare was how I could just dash strafe. Like you just hold left and click, and you dash to the left or dash to the right. And it added a whole other element to the game. And not only that, while you're in midair, you can dash in any direction. So you could jump forward and then dash back, or you could jump back and then dash forward, or dash to the side, or it gave you a lot more flexibility in how you could make it through the areas. And look, I know a lot of Call of Duty purists hated that, and they thought it felt not like Call of Duty. And for them, I would say that Black Ops 3 kind of takes you back a little bit. It's a kind of a good middle ground in between the old CODs and Advanced Warfare, I guess is the best way to put it, as far as movement is concerned. When you start talking about like weaponry and gadgetry, like, in all honesty, it feels very much the same. Like, they've kind of renamed some stuff and like kind of put things in different places, but they still like have a lot of the same functionality. Like, one of the big things about the game is like you kind of choose a class in the game. And I think there's 9 total classes in the beta. There's 4 or 5. They don't let you use all of them. At least I haven't got to use all of them yet. Maybe they unlock eventually. But each one of these classes basically has like 2 abilities, and you can choose which one you want to use. And so some of the things that used to be called perks are now like baked in as abilities for these classes. Like for instance, one of the baked in abilities is the ability to send out a sonar and see enemies in your immediate vicinity. And so if you look down at the bottom right hand of the screen there, see that big circle? Basically it fills up over time. And once the circle gets full, you can use your abilities. And it takes quite a while for that thing to fill up. So you can't just like constantly spam your abilities over and over again. So in that way, they're different than if you had them as perks where they're on like the whole time you're in a match. Here you can only use them in very specific instances, but they've been pretty smart about it and made sure that anything that they use for these so-called armor abilities are things that actually have like a huge effect. Like the one that I was using a lot was one that let me see through walls. And so when I would turn it on, guaranteed I'm getting at least 1 kill, at least. Because what you don't realize in Call of Duty is that half of the skill in Call of Duty is picking out the enemy from the environment. Like, look, there are some people who can sight up quicker than others, and you know, people will talk about like milliseconds of lag and delay, and like, well, I have a TV that has like a crazy lag delay, and that's why really, people who are good at Call of Duty know where the enemies are going to be and have a really good eye at picking those enemies out of the environment. And so, you know, just getting that one burst of sonar that sends it out and paints like a couple guys, like instantly you get a couple kills. So they've been really smart with how they've assigned those and making sure that the ones that they assigned to the armor abilities and took away from the perks are ones that would actually pretty much guarantee you a kill. So that's been pretty smart. Like the maps so far, I really like the maps. They've obviously been built with the verticality in mind. And keep in mind, you know, this is the first time Treyarch's done something like this. You know, they've been sitting out the last couple years while all the Titanfalls and the Advanced Warfares have come out, where the wall running and things like, and the flying and stuff like that have become prevalent. So I can sense a little bit of a reluctance to dive in, I'd say, in this game. Instead of Treyarch saying, okay, well, Advanced Warfare did this, so we're going to one-up it, like they've actually like dialed it back a little bit. The other thing I'll say about this game is that it is lightning fast. I mean,
can see that.
It runs, first of all, it runs at like rock solid 60, like no sense or even hint of a hiccup anywhere, but it just moves quick. Like you have unlimited sprint. Like you can run as much as you want in this game. And I believe it's the first Call of Duty to include that, where you don't eventually tire out. Like you can literally just use the run constantly, and it just makes the game super fast. And my biggest criticism of this game right now, that based upon the time that I've played it, is there's this new sliding mechanic where you can run and then slide on your knees. And man, like, look, I got into this thing.
That's what you mean about the sonar paint there.
There it was. Look, I got into this thing yesterday, which was like a day and a half or 2 days before, you know, the beta actually was unlocked to the public, and already there were guys in there who were like level 30. So, I mean, look, I'm guessing they're all like the esports guys that are partners with Activision, and, you know, guys like Nade Shot and stuff like that are probably the guys I was playing against, and let me tell you, they were whooping my ass. Like, I think I had 3 games or 4 games where I actually was like over like even on kills and deaths. Like these guys were just ridiculously good. And so these guys use the knee slide. They run and then they slide into a room, and while they're sliding into the room and still sliding, they shoot you in the face. Like there is no defense for it. And so I don't know. The game has become really complicated at this point. Like, it's not just run around and shoot people anymore. Like,
because I was going to ask you, like, what about someone who's been like out of the Call of Duty game for a few games? Is this?
I think you'd be in deep crap, man. I really do. I mean, look, this one does dial it back a little bit as far as like the whole like exosuit stuff that was in Advanced Warfare. But it's still crazy complicated. Like, I couldn't imagine someone who's never played a first-person shooter picking up Black Ops 3. Like, it would just be hilarious watching someone try to play this game. And it's so fast and, like, Yeah, I mean, look, I enjoyed it. I didn't want to stop playing. I fell asleep with the controller in my lap. Literally woke up with being booted out of a match. I was enjoying it so much. But at the same time, these games aren't measured in a day or a night or even a week. These games are measured in months and half years and quarters and
months and season passes.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it comes down to with this game. Is it going to last over the long haul? And so, again, being completely honest, I was certainly one of the weaker guys playing. I hadn't been playing it already. I was level 1. I think I got to level 6 or 7 by the time I finished, and they were all like level 20 and level 30. So they're obviously a lot better than me. They know the maps a lot better than me, and I was getting my ass handed to me for the most part. But it has become like a crazy, complicated video game to play.
Yeah, I mean, the last Call of Duty I played by any extensive amount was Modern Warfare 3, and this when I first started watching this footage, I wondered if it was being played double speed.
No, this is the real speed,
super
man.
Fast.
Oh yeah, it's insane. And like I said, the frame rate just adds to it. Like, my wife walked in and started getting motion sick watching it. She's like, "How do you play this?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And I guess because you know which direction you're going.
Is this you playing? Or
this is not me playing.
This is
no.
other footage.
Yeah, this is other footage. Oh, I wish this were me. Right now, you'd be like, "What are you talking about? You dominate, Shane." But look, I did have a lot of really cool moments, like where I'd be running on a wall, and you can fire the gun while you're running on the wall. Mm-hmm. So there are lots of moments where I'd jump up onto a wall, start running, and another guy would jump up on the other end of the wall, start running at me, and we were shooting at each other while we're both running on the wall.
Do you think there's some Titanfall influence here?
For sure.
Or is it just that was where these games were going to go regardless?
I mean, look, Titanfall was out probably, they had started doing some of the speccing for this game. It undoubtedly influenced it, just like it undoubtedly influenced Advanced Warfare. I mean, look. But truth be told, I'm an OG, and if I really want to talk about what influenced what, I'll talk about Tribes, which was the first-person shooter I got hopelessly addicted to. That was the first game where you could fly and shoot and do it well online without crazy lag. So
I missed the Tribes.
Yeah, you did.
Because I didn't have a PC at the time, and I remember I used to read all those early Penny Arcade strips about Tribes and how much they were addicted to Tribes.
It was one of the most addictive games still to this day.
It's one of my gaming regrets that I was never involved in. I never was in Tribes at the time of the Tribes.
Still to this day, one of the most addicting games I ever played, and also one of the most challenging and rewarding games I've ever played. You land a shot, because the other thing about Tribes was the machine guns and everything, they don't do anything in that game. The primary weapon was this little disc launcher where you literally launched one disc that would explode when it hit something. And so in midair, to be able to time somebody flying while you're flying with this one little disc that you shoot out of your gun and hit them, there's no better feeling in first-person shooters than landing a disc shot in midair in Tribes. That's when you know you're leaked, basically. Because most of the time what you do in Tribes is you try to guess the spot that the guy's going to land at and then try to time your shot so that your shot lands right at his feet just as he lands. That was your best chance to actually hit people with a disc launcher. So anyway, total tangent we're going off on here. But look, there's tons of little tweaks. The kill streaks are the same, basically. It's a point-based system, so you get points for everything you do. You can see them adding up there in the footage. And then when you get to certain thresholds, you get the kill streaks. Obviously, you need more points for the better ones. There are perks that will start you out with 120 points to kind of cut down on it. Like I said, it's kind of rebranding things, because there used to be a perk where it took one less kill to get the kill streak, and instead now they have this perk that starts you off with 100 points. So it's kind of repackaging, rebranding a lot of stuff. Here's one thing I'm glad it showed up. Yes, this is a big part of the game. Water and going underwater, man. And it does make a big difference. A lot of these games, you would go into water, you'd die.
Yeah.
And so when I first started playing, I was scared to fall in the water. And then I started seeing people intentionally jumping in the water. I'm like, wait a minute. And I jumped in there, and when you go into the water, there are tunnels underwater that will take you to other places in the level.
Huh.
Underneath the buildings, and it does add a complete different sense of strategy to it. And you can see the map. So you can swim underwater, swim on the map to where you find someone who's right next to you, pop up out of the water, and just melee them.
Oh, little Splatoon influence.
Yeah, definitely. And then the other thing, too, that the slide that I don't like about the sliding mechanic is that literally last night there were people who were playing with knives who would just run at you and slide and kill you before you could fire a single bullet.
Like the old thing where you set the perks up, and it was just like those knife runners. Old games.
But this is even worse because the slide. Look, you're already moving crazy fast. The slide, you go like double time, and so somebody's running at you. You pull your gun up. When you pull your gun up, it's at like chest or head level. By the time they start that slide and slide down to the ground, you don't have the time to put your gun down to shoot them before they're on you, stabbing you with their knife.
It's like next level dolphin diving.
Yeah, exactly. Or like the shotgun roll from the original Gears. Remember that? Like people would roll and then pop up and immediately shoot you at the shotgun, and there was like no way to stop it until they nerfed it. Yeah. And so look, it's the beta, and so I'm guessing this is exactly the type of stuff they're looking for. It's like, well, wait, the slide knife, like people can't stop it, and so maybe they slow down the slide a little bit, or they find some way to nerf it in some way.
Maybe if you knife during a slide, it takes 2 hits to kill. Or something like that.
Maybe they'll do something. I'm guessing to fix it, but overall, I'm having a good time. Like it's fun, but it still is very much Call of Duty, which may make some people really happy. But like you said, I have been playing this series for a really long time, and so I felt like Advanced Warfare was kind of a refreshing reprieve from what it had become and had been. And I do feel like this is kind of a step back more to the more traditional Call of Duty games. Some people are going to love that. Personally, I'm not a fan of it as much as maybe some others might be. But, you know, I played it for a solid day. I really enjoyed it. I want to go home after we're done with the show tonight and play some more, but I obviously have to work on the show and get the show up. But an auspicious look at it so far. Like, I've enjoyed it. Again, there's only a few maps. I'm not getting access to all the classes yet. I'm not getting access to all the weapons yet or all the gadgetry yet. All the gadgets so far have been gadgets that I've seen already a bunch of times. So, yeah.
It's nice on the eyes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this footage obviously doesn't look great because it's been compressed and it's running in 720p versus 1080p. But
it's like it's bright and there's difference. You know, it looks different.
Yeah, color. There's actually some colors in it instead of it just all being brown and gray and.
And I mean the change to like the speed and the wall running and the verticality of the maps in this one in Advanced Warfare is nice to see.
It is. Yeah.
Just there's only so much you can do with the standard sort of single level or multi 2-3 level shooter map, and I
There's
feel
only
like
so much you can do with shooters. Period.
Right.
I remember one time
this
people
has
were
really
complaining.
freed it up.
People were complaining about Call of Duty, and I was like, and I just asked the audience, I'm like, what do you want them to do that they haven't done or haven't tried already? Like, what is there left? Like, if you're saying you don't like the game at that point, you probably just don't really like first-person shooters anymore, or you like a more deliberate first-person shooter.
Yeah, I don't think there's a problem with. I know everybody complains Call of Duty is the same all the time, but it's like, shouldn't it be? Like, shouldn't it deliver to the people? Or
it's a new series, right?
Yeah, but shouldn't it deliver to the? I'm kind of done. I haven't played a COD, like I said, since 2012 or whatever. But it's like I played a little bit of Ghosts, but it's like
that was the worst one ever.
But it's like, shouldn't they deliver on this every? It's like complaining that Madden's a football game. Every year,
you're right. Because at this point, Call of Duty has become like a sport.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like, how much can you change the rules of a sport before the people who are really good at that sport complain? And it's like people have already kind of fought through the whole change from the Xbox controller to the PlayStation, because that's a big deal. Yeah. You got to realize these pro players have been using the Xbox controller or Xbox 360 or Xbox One controller all this time. It's like changing the shape of the football.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're going to make the football square now. And and now, Megatron, we expect the same performance out of you this year. Like, it's just not feasible. So, at the same token, would it have been smart for them to make another Advanced Warfare and just copy last year's game? Probably not.
No.
I will say Black Ops 2 is probably my favorite online Call of Duty ever, as far as, like, having fun, and probably it's because of the one I was best at. I think that's typically how it works.
It helps.
Just being honest, full
Certainly
disclosure.
I like Battlefield 1942 the best.
Exactly. I mean, that's kind of how it works. So
Wake Island for life.
So I don't know if any of you guys are on the beta. If you are, hit me up. I'm playing it on PlayStation 4. Obviously, it's the only one that's been released so far, and my gamer tag is Dinfire, just like my Twitter tag. So hit me up, send me an invite, and we will play some Call of Duty Black Ops 3 until they tell us we can't anymore, or until I have to play something else, which honestly I probably have to do anyway. So jump on in the next couple of days and we will play together. So let's see if we can try to drum up a question or two this week. I know last week it didn't work out because basically the whole thing had crashed, and I apologize for that. It was very awkward too watching the show later on in the day. I was like, Twitch
app didn't work.
I just sitting there like fumbling around with it the whole time. So
Ooh, we've been talking a while.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, someone brought up GameStop Expo. That's another one that's coming up really
wow.
soon.
Yeah.
There's
that?
all... is it in Vegas?
I think so.
I think it is in Vegas. Let's see. Everyone's still talking about Call of Duty.
Yeah, I don't know. We're in the Twitch lag zone.
Yeah, well, I think it's like 20 seconds. There's a setting.
Yeah, it takes a while.
There's a setting that you can adjust so that the lag isn't as bad, but then people who have moderate connections will get like buffering while they're watching it. So we've erred on the side of caution and decided to use the traditional Twitch streaming.
We can stall for time. We're good at that.
Let's see. When are Sifted forums going up? Good one.
Good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. I have been looking at the forums for the last week or so, and the forums look freaking awesome. I am really, really excited about the forums. The community page is done. Community page collects like all this stuff onto one page. And you guys have probably already seen how your profile pages have changed over time. Well, the community page is kind of going to be like your profile pages now. It's going to give you a good snapshot of what's going on in the entire community. That page is finished. We have the actual threads done, how the threads are going to work, how the threads are going to look, how your avatars are going to work, where all the quoting and all that stuff takes place. The only thing that we're working on right now, the only thing that's left, is the master forums page, where basically the page that has like all the forum options for you guys. And actually, if you guys have a request for forums, feel free to share them on Sifted, because right now we're trying to figure out exactly what forums we want. Because we're just starting out, we don't want to have a million forums, because if you do, then a lot of them are empty. So right now we're talking about maybe having 4 or 5 different forums when we launch the forums. There's going to be gaming, there's going to be an off-topic. We're going to have a forum where you can ask people for help when you're stuck on video games, because I feel like that's a really valuable tool for people. So anyway, we have like a few ideas for the forums that we're going to work with right now. But if you guys have suggestions for any of those, feel free to share those on Sifted. Feel free to share those in the comments of this show when the show is archived on Sifted. We will certainly listen to your feedback. To give you a day, I don't know. Like it's going really fast. Like Brent has honestly only worked on the forums hardcore for like a week or so, and they're like already finished. So they could be done any day. They could just be like blogs where we're not really talking about them, and then one day you show up on the site and there they are. But they are really getting close to being completed, and you should be excited about them because they are really cool. I'm really excited about it. Here's the thing. Thoughts on Picross 3D 2?
No.
What games are you most excited for this year, guys? That is from Gus Bricker. What's your most anticipated? I know what yours is.
What's mine?
It's Battlefront.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless No Man's Sky comes out this year.
Yeah. I'm actually starting to lean towards Battlefront too, I have to say. I was a little...
I got to play it, again at D23, the split screen, and it really feels good. It's smooth. It's got that rock solid 60 feel. Star Wars it's never looked better. So.
E3 sold it for me. E3 was like the big game changer. For
me.
Well,
if I wasn't already sold the Fighter Squadron mode, I might play that more than the regular modes, frankly. But I would say Battlefront for sure is number one until No Man's Sky gets a release date.
Yeah.
One way or the other, space.
Spaceship. Let's see. I have a couple more questions here. What do you guys... This is from Helters. What do you guys think about Zombie, formerly Zombie U, being released on the other consoles and stuff? Isn't that weird? I think it's weird that they would bother to do that because that game was so reliant upon the gamepad. It's like...
I wonder what...
Because look, otherwise
how does it play now?
Well, the thing is like otherwise that game is a really crappy first-person shooter. Like it is bad. What made me like that game was the atmosphere that the gamepad brought, like having like those radio transmissions coming through the gamepad, and like it was made for that platform. It was made for the Wii U, and I'm guessing Ubisoft lost its butt on that game because it didn't sell well, and they probably dumped a ton of money into it. I think they're just trying to hope that they can recoup some of their costs on it. But yeah, I think it's stupid that they released that game.
Did that come out already? Is that like next week?
It came out today, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen anything.
Lots of big news today. Everyone's saying, "Why, W. Matthew? Why no Fallout 4?" I mean, that would probably be my second pick.
Yeah, I mean, Fallout 4, I played Wasteland to death. I played the Fallouts to death. I played Fallout 3 to death. As far as Fallout 4 goes, I'm excited, but like I guess I just don't know enough yet. Yeah, and
I feel like I know too much already. I don't want to know any more about
like
that
they
game.
said this, I think yesterday or the day before, like we're not going to talk about the story until it launches. We're keeping it all under wraps. And like so, I mean, I guess like to me, Fallout 4 is such a given that I'm going. It's like Zelda. It's like I don't need to see anymore. I don't need to be excited. It's a given. I'm going.
It's like no matter what, I'm going to play it. Yeah.
I'm going to play it. It's like. Are you excited for dinner tonight? I'm like, well, I'm sure I'm going to be hungry, but it's like it's a given. So I will always play a Fallout game. So I'm more excited about Battlefront because I kind of wonder what that's going to be and what's the fighter squadron going to feel like. And what's it like Fallout 4? As much as it seems to have advanced, I feel like I've kind of got a handle on that.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of in the back of my mind. It's not the forefront of my excitement.
Yeah.
So
right.
you need a little mystery for it.
No, you're right. I agree, 100%. It's like I'm not watching any more trailers for the new Star Wars movie. I'm just not. It's like I get it. I kind of know what it's about.
I keep saying that, but then I do.
I am not.
So
I did not watch the one from D23, and I'm done. I'm not watching anymore.
I don't think there was one.
I thought there was. There was like a couple of new scenes that were released or whatever.
There were some pictures and stuff. There was a photo of Mark Hamill as like in his Jedi Master outfit.
Yeah. Like I'm totally on blackout now for that movie. Like I know enough about it that I'm hook, line, and sinker in there. I'm good.
I'm gonna screw it up because I'm gonna go get that. On the 4th, I'm totally gonna go buy all the toys. And there's also, I don't know if anyone's seen this yet, but there's this thing coming out called Legendary Yoda that I saw at D23, and it's like this big, and it's an animatronic Yoda. And it's like the best animatronic stuff I've ever seen on a commercial level. Like it's like you talk to it and it's voice sensitive and like you can press its foot and it does stuff. But you can put a lightsaber in his hand or his like walking stick in his hand, and that makes him like warrior mode or like wisdom mode. And so like he'll teach you about the Force, and like if he has the lightsaber, he like swings it around and like spins around and like jumps around. It's like it's got like almost like Pirates of the Caribbean style animatronics where they have that. It doesn't look like animatronics. It's stopping correctly, and it looks really good. So that comes out on the 4th too, and I think that's like $180. And I'm like, I would have laughed at it until I saw it in person and like heard it like talking. You can ask us like, do you sense the dark side? And he'll like look around the room and like,
oh, wow.
and tell you if you're like at risk to the dark side. Like his hand will glow with the Force and stuff. And I'm like, it's like just that right combination of ridiculous and awesome.
Yeah.
I urge people to look out for that one.
Okay, so I'm just going to answer a couple of questions really quickly here. Let's see. From Boulevard 33, are still going to showcase user blogs? Yes. And the reason we haven't been showcasing them so far is because basically to find your user blogs right now, we have to go and click on every person's individual profile to go see them. And so on the new community page that I was talking about earlier, it will have a snapshot of blogs on that page. So it'll make it a lot easier for, not just for us to find them, but for everybody to find like the most recent blogs that have been posted by the community. So once that happens, we will start featuring them. I'm going to start poking around a little bit anyway and start trying to find some good ones. I've actually read a couple that were really good already. But we are going to do that. It'll be much more robust once that community page is finished. Let's see. All these other comments came in. They got rid of all the questions. Oh, here's a good one. Shane, is the show going to be on Tuesday going forward from News End? Maybe. It's like, here's the thing. It's like once you get started on a day, first of all, you need the 7 days to make sure there's enough news to float a show. And actually, this show was kind of tough to put together. It's been a bit of a slow week. Yeah, although you wouldn't know by the time we've rambled on. But
yeah, well, we like to talk, so
we do, especially about games. And so we need a certain amount of time to make sure there's enough content for the show. And at the same time, it's like we don't want to do a show in a few days that doesn't have any content in it. So we had talked about after doing the show last Tuesday, we're going to try to do one on Saturday. And then he and I started texting back and forth, and we're like, what do we talk about? There was like 2 topics that we really could have gotten good discussions about. So probably for the time being, Tuesdays are going to be the day. Things could change once stuff starts picking up, once more of the games start coming out. Like I said earlier, there's a big game every week going forward for the rest of the year. So
yeah, and since games come out on Tuesday,
it's kind of a good day for the show, although I don't know.
Although you never know, like maybe if we want to give us ourselves a day to play them.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, most cases the review will be done, the game eval will be up on Sifted, right. But Tuesdays are going to be crazy for me when the releases start ramping up because we have to publish,
you have to curate all that, yeah.
And we have to publish all our own game evals too, and so Tuesdays is always going to be a scramble. So we'll see. I would probably say for the next few weeks it's going to be Tuesday. And again, if you guys have a preferred day that you want us to do it, put it in the comments in the show archive. That's the best way for you to communicate with us about GameFace, unless you want to hit us up on Twitter. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. Another good one in the books. Episode 20, a landmark milestone episode. We'll see you guys probably next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.